Lethal Company was released on October 23rd, 2023, and it was an internet sensation. By December that year, Lethal Company had hit its all-time peak at 240,000 concurrent players. During this month, a legendary YouTuber known as Chef Austin released a video creating one of the hardest challenges known to Lethal Company at the time, the Ironman challenge. This challenge would consist of only 3 rules. You must visit every moon once, in order, you must not die, and you must complete the final quota. As I've been streaming Monday through Friday every single week, link in the description, I decided it was finally time to show my viewers that I could do it too. So let's rewind to Experimentation, where the Ironman challenge begins. Every moon needs to be strong for this challenge as a solo. Like, you need to be able to average 300. Bro, it's kind of hard. I'll get this first. Please be over 100. 88 is good. Jump. Okay, nice. With a beehive already secured on the ship by 8 AM, we were starting this challenge off strong, and I was ready to get inside and start looting. Experimentation is the easiest moon in the game, as it has the smallest indoor map and the least threatening enemies. However, that comes with a cost, as Experimentation will only spawn between 8 and 11 items, which is the least amount of loot compared to every other moon. So, if we wanted a good day on Experimentation, we would need almost every item on the map, plus the apparatus, and since we already secured an early morning beehive, we were off to a great start. Oh, we got a loot room here and a key, which I might save the key because it looks like entrance to loot room is right here. Okay, this is, wow, this is like the best Experimentation run I've ever had, like off rip. Luckily, we found some good loot rooms relatively close to fire exit, so the plan was to transfer those items, then head over to main to hopefully find another handful of items. Play schedule 1, that's chill. Okay, dude, this is the 3rd flask I found on this map. We found a couple more items at main, and more importantly, we found the apparatus, which is crucial to a good first run, as it's almost always the most valuable item on Experimentation, selling for 80 credits. I pulled the apparatus, grabbed my items, and started heading back to ship. There's bees. Ooh, do I want those? 130, yes I do. Okay, I really want these bees. I should have time to do it. Although it was getting pretty late in the day, I could still safely haul back my loot, considering the outdoors aren't super dangerous even at 10 or 11 PM. The only enemies I would really need to watch out for are eyeless dogs and earthworms, as those are pretty much the only 2 outdoor enemies that can spawn on Experimentation. By the time I got all my loot to the ship, it was already almost 11 PM, but I was determined to get the $130 beehive. Okay. With the dog right behind me, I had to scoot myself over to the side and wait for him to walk away. However, time was ticking, and since the ship takes off at 12 AM, I waited as long as I could, then grabbed the beehive at the last second. I barely made it onto the ship with the beehive, and after the bees' last attempt at taking me out, I placed the beehive inside the ship, then went around back to grab the beehive I collected at the beginning of the day. Oh, we almost got the second one. Whoo! That was kind of insane. I missed the second one, so we could have had another 88, but we still got an S. After securing a very strong 404 in Experimentation, we moved on to Assurance with the determination and confidence of having another great day. Assurance is very well known to be one of the best early game moons, mainly because it spawns a decent amount of loot and isn't very dangerous. Indoors, you'll see anywhere between 13 and 15 items, and since it also has the smallest indoor map tied with Experimentation, that means finding every item is very much doable even as a solo. You also have this very nice drop spot, which gives Assurance one of the easiest transfers compared to a lot of the other moons. Unfortunately, I was only able to find a soccer ball before realizing I was locked out of fire exit, so I went over to main to hopefully find some more items. Somebody to play with. Trespasser with 10 gifted, brother. What is this? Yo, thank you for the 10 gifted. Holy sh. With some extra cash in my pocket, I got straight to work and found a robot toy, a jar of pickles, and a V-type engine. I wish I had a little bit more of an interesting story for you guys, but I spent the next few minutes talking to chat instead of looting, and after I heard a thumper, I decided to take the few items I had and head back to ship. On Assurance, the main enemy you'll see outdoors are eyeless dogs, which by themselves aren't that bad, but sometimes they can be comboed with earthworms, which is when they can get really dangerous. For most moons, enemies start spawning around 3 p.m., which meant I had to have my head on a swivel during my transfers. Once I hauled all my items back to the ship, I decided to buy a shovel and go back in so I could take down the thumper. Okay, yeah, here he comes. Hit the wall, bonk, 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 bonk. Okay, that was a little messy, I will admit, but we did what we needed to do. It is 6:30, we have all the items we need, and next line of mission is to find progress, which I believe is, I guess, this way. Dude, if a snare flea falls on me, I'm dunzo bunzo, bro. Once the thumper was gone, I knew I could loot around pretty safely, as the most common enemies on Assurance aren't too much of a threat. I was able to find another bolt and jar of pickles, and although I wanted to find some more items, I knew it was getting late, so I started heading back to ship in hopes I'd maybe find a beehive on the way back. With a pretty decent chance of beehives spawning on Assurance, I scouted around but wasn't able to find any, so I finished out the day with a measly 296 and kept it moving to Vow, which is the third and final tier 1 moon. Vow is definitely more of an intermediate map, as the transfer is pretty long and the outdoors can get very dangerous at night, and considering it was stormy outside, I needed to be very careful. The most common enemy on Vow is the Bracken, so my main focus when I'm indoors is to always be watching my back. I went in through fire as I normally do, and noticed we pulled the mansion interior, which is extremely rare at a 0.61% chance. This wouldn't change how I play, I would just need to be extra careful in the dead end rooms, as they're some of the most dangerous places to be when there's a Bracken lurking around. I got straight to work, but quickly found that fire exit was pretty close to main, which isn't necessarily a bad thing on this map since main entrance has a much safer transfer. As I was clearing out all the dead ends, I made sure to constantly check my back because the mansion interior has a lot of dead end rooms. What makes these rooms even worse is that they have a bunch of drawers which can easily distract you, giving Brackens the perfect opportunity to sneak up behind you. And I know you guys noticed me checking my back. Am I scared of a Bracken? Yeah, I am. But if you guys got an issue with that, then whatever. I cleared out all the dead ends near main entrance and found a hairbrush, clown horn, some toilet paper, and a Z-Dog, which, fun fact, is the rarest item in the game. Even though I didn't have a ton of items, I wanted to start my transfer early, so I grabbed a full inventory of items and started heading back to ship. The chance of Bracken on this map is very high. If you're going to Vow, you need to expect a Bracken every single time. And you need to expect Feapar. Basically, if you're on Vow, you need to be watching your back. With Forest Keepers and Feapars being the two most common outdoor enemies on Vow, I knew I had to be careful. Forest Keepers are easily one of the most dangerous outdoor enemies in the game, and even with all the trees at Vow, Forest Keepers can still be a huge threat. Despite the potential dangers, I went back to grab 2 more of my most expensive items and safely brought them back to the ship for a solid 311 day. This would bring us to a total of 1,011 scrap on ship, and with my first 3 days on the job complete, I routed to the company building to sell. After selling just enough to complete the first quota, I was left with 844 scrap on ship going into quota 2. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I made that. That was crazy. We started off the run by jumping onto this pipe, which would take us straight over to fire exit. It was crucial that we landed this jump because transferring from fire exit is 10 times easier on this moon than transferring from main. Offense is one of those moons that has a pretty bad reputation because of its history, but the version 80 update changed everything about this moon. First off, we already know that the most common interior for offense is mineshaft, which is already a buff because mineshaft interiors will always spawn 6 extra items than normal. This would mean we're looking at somewhere between 20 and 25 24 items, which is already the most amount of items that can spawn out of any tier 1 or tier 2 moon. In the most recent update, mineshaft interiors were redesigned in a way that would basically make it easier to find loot in the cave systems. With the combination of the extra items and the new mineshaft design, I would be able to find a lot of items pretty close, pretty quick. However, Offense still upholds its historic title as being one of the most dangerous moons in the game, as things can go from 0 to 100 very quickly. With Thumper being the most common enemy and Coilheads also having a pretty high chance, I wanted to make sure I didn't stay inside too long. With a solid 2 inventories of items, I dropped everything just outside of fire exit to be safe, and since it was still pretty early on in the day, I went back in for more. There's still more to explore, bro. Like to the right. But I don't know if I want to fight a Thumper in here, dude. Okay, cool. With a Thumper and Coilhead both inside, I decided it'd be smarter to just transfer the items I had, and if I had some extra time, I could always try to find some more items at main entrance. Outside, Offense really isn't that dangerous. The main thing you need to watch out for are Baboon Hawks stealing your items. This is a huge reason why transferring from fire exit is so much easier, because you can just drop your items off the piping and they're all right next to the ship. I hauled all my loot back to the ship, and by the time I secured my last inventory, it was getting a little late, but I decided I'd go check main to see if we could find any extra pieces of loot. Nah, let's just leave. Not worth, not worth. There's a slime too. Dude, there's literally a snare flea camping the entrance. That's crazy work. Although I probably could have found an extra item or two, I didn't have a weapon to kill the Thumper, and if you ever see a snare flea camping the elevator like that, it's your sign to leave. So I sprinted back to ship, and although I had a good handful of items, it was only worth 236 credits, which meant I was going to need to step it up for the next few days. The hardest part about this challenge is saving up enough money to buy Dine, Rend, and Titan all right after each other. With Dine being 550, Rend being 600, and Titan being 700, I would need a total of about 1850 on the ship by the end of this quota. With only 1163 on ship after Offense, that meant I would need to collect about another 700 scrap over the next 2 moons. March is an interesting moon because it's the only moon with 3 fire exits, and it's also the only moon that has a guaranteed interior type, which is the factory interior. As good as this sounds, the downside to March is that it's one of the biggest maps in the game with a 2 times map size multiplier. March also only spawns between 13 and 16 items, which is about the same as Assurance, but because the map is twice the size, all the items are much more spread apart, making them much harder to find. This is why you always want to take advantage of all the different entrances, peeking into each one and moving on to the next. I started at main entrance and was able to find a flask, 2 axles, and an air horn. I also found apparatus, which was completely locked off, so I took a mental note and decided to just start transferring the items I had. March's most common outdoor enemies are forest keepers and eyeless dogs, but it still has a pretty decent chance to spawn every other outdoor enemy, so I had to be prepared for anything. Luckily, since it was still pretty early on in the day, I didn't need to worry much about enemies for the time being. After my first transfer, I spotted a beehive on the bridge and decided I'd grab it later so I could go back indoors for some more loot. Most of the fire exits are in the same area as Old March, with this one being the only exception, hiding behind a waterfall. Thanks for the follow, man. Okay, another flask. You know we love the flask. Another... Okay, key. We need that for app. I cleared out some dead ends, then just grabbed the extra flask and axle, as well as the key, and made my way back outside. I think we're just going to take this show. I'll take this back. We'll grab the beehive here. I'm going to have to run through the beehive. Oh my gosh, I actually lagged there. With the beehive secured, I dropped the rest of my items off at the ship, then went back into main to grab my second axle. It was already about 5 p.m., which meant that I was surely going to start encountering enemies inside and outside. Oh, hello there. Glad he didn't see me. What's up, Tragic? Although there was a Thumper wandering around indoors, I still wanted to grab the apparatus, so I went back in, hoping the Thumper wouldn't spot me. Where was App? Wasn't App to the right? Watch out for this thumper here. I think App was straight ahead. There's 2 thumpers. Oh, he might hit me actually. As soon as I came outside, there was an eyeless dog as well as a forest giant blocking the main pathway to the ship. After almost 3 in-game hours of crouch walking behind trees, I finally was able to safely sprint to the ship, and just before the day ended, I grabbed the beehive. We ended off with a $327 day, which put us at a total of $1490 scrap on ship, which meant I was going to need a good day on Adamance. Guys, I'm not playing Roblox. You guys are out of your minds. Adamance, one of the most beautiful maps in the game, and also one of the most dangerous out of all the tier 1s and tier 2s. Adamance used to be the best free moon to go to, but since Lethal Company's last update, Adamance has lost that title because of cadaver blooms. Cadaver blooms are just an indoor plant that's guaranteed to spawn at the beginning of the day on Adamance, and if you go near it, you can get infected and die. So the goal for this run was to grab as much loot as I could without getting near any cadaver blooms, but little did I know that cadaver blooms wouldn't be my main concern for this run. I happened to pull a day with indoor fog, which always makes things harder and is very unlucky with only a 2% chance of happening per day. I also happen to roll a day with a bunch of traps and landmines, which combined with indoor fog is a very bad combo. I went in through main, carefully making my way around the factory, and as I was checking my dead ends, I found fire exit very close to main. Of course, fire is so close, dude. 1755. Great. Okay. Holy sh... Dude, I'm hearing so many landmines. I might just leave, bro, if I find... I mean, dude, I basically have a full inventory. I think I'm gonna leave, dude. I don't think I want to stay here. Yeah, sorry, believers. I'm not gonna go in for more. With the combination of indoor fog, landmines, and traps, I thought it was way too dangerous to explore any deeper, so I grabbed the whoopee cushion, apparatus, and the last 2 items from fire exit and made my way back to the ship. Of course, just before I made it onto the ship, Adamance sent its last line of defense to try to take me out. No way this kills me, right? Alright, bro. I'm out of here. We only walked away with 183 extra loot, which put us at a total of 1673 on ship, which wasn't enough scrap to buy the next 3 moons. However, there's one thing I didn't mention, and that's overtime bonus. Overtime bonus is the extra amount of credits you get for selling over quota. The more you sell over quota, the more your overtime bonus will be. I used a calculator online to find out exactly how much I needed to sell to get 1850 credits, and after plugging in the numbers, it said I needed to sell 1593, which meant I barely had enough to sell. 1593. 1593 on the dot. That's crazy. That's literally exactly how much I needed. Okay, I'm gonna sell this though because I need a shovel. As the apparatus was the last item I had on ship, this meant I was gonna need to make a lot of money over the next 3 days if I wanted to complete this challenge. I bought a shovel so I was prepared to fight and took off to the first tier 3 moon, Rend.
Let's get it.
Rend is the first tier 3 moon and is home of the Nutcrackers, which means it's crucial to always bring a weapon inside. However, since it was stormy, I decided to play Rend a little differently. I feel like I shouldn't have brought the shovel. I'm gonna leave the shovel. Call me crazy, but I'm leaving the shovel. I feel like in solo, I'm like gonna peek in and peek out. Rend typically has the mansion interior at a 90% chance, but we happen to pull the rare 8% chance of a mineshaft. This wouldn't change much as my mindset would still be the same, and that was to keep track of my items because I knew I was only going to be able to do 2 or 3 transfers. Indoors, Rend's most common enemies are nutcrackers, jesters, and brackens, which are some of the most dangerous enemies in the game, but as long as I was careful, I would be fine. Rend also has some of the best loot in the game, with paintings and fancy lamps being the 2 most common two-handed items. You also have a pretty good chance of seeing a lot of other high-value loot like brass bells, robot toys, and hair dryers. I found a golden cup and a painting, then ran a little deeper in to find some more loot. This particular moment was very important for this run because, although I didn't know at the time, this water would be where progress is. I grabbed the plastic cup, cleared the nearby dead ends, then brought my inventory back to main. I had some other items nearby, so I grabbed those and threw everything into the elevator before continuing to search for progress. Don't be locked. Dead end? Where can I go? I don't know where I can go. Did I miss a turn? I must have missed a turn. I thought I hit all dead ends. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that progress would be through that water I had found earlier, but this would eventually work in my favor because that meant I could start my transfer early on in the day. Considering it was stormy and the fact that the only 2 outdoor enemies on Rend are eyeless dogs and forest keepers, transferring early is key to staying alive. With an almost 2-hour transfer thanks to the stormy weather, I finally made it back with my first inventory. Okay. Let's see how much this is. 76, that's basically 110. 170 plus 50. That's already 220. My first inventory was a very strong 220, so I went back to grab some more items. And I still have one more transfer. Oh, that was worth 100. Oh, that was 144. I grabbed my last item as well as the shovel on the way back, and just like Adamance, Rend had one final attempt of taking me out with 4 lightning bolts to my shovel. We had a 432 day, which wasn't bad considering the small amount of items we found, but the goal was to hit 1650 scrap over these 3 days so I could afford the tier 4 moons, which meant I was going to need a good day on Dine.
Hey, Leo, let's get it.
For those of you that don't know, in the version 73 update, the Dine loot table was completely overhauled and now will spawn the most items out of every moon in the game, spawning between 200 and 249 pieces of scrap. But this comes with a caveat, as the items that spawn aren't your normal scrap. The only items you'll find on Dine are body parts like hands, feet, legs, arms, ears, and even tongues, which are all exclusive to Dine. Because of the sheer amount of loot that spawns on this map, high quota runners will run Dine over and over, collecting every single piece of scrap available and profit more per day than any other moon. As great as 200 pieces of scrap sounds, most of these body parts are valued between 5 and 15, which means you still need to transfer quite a bit if you want to make good money on this moon. The best strategy is probably to scan and check the price on each item, but I went in with the main goal being just to transfer back 6 inventories regardless of the price. Luckily, I found a bathroom pretty close to main full of items, which meant I wouldn't need to go too deep later on in this run. I'm just gonna bring all this back right now. Might as well. I'm not gonna worry about what's in the other doors. I would like a heart, but if we don't find one, no big deal. I'm not worried about it. Although most of these parts are very cheap, there is one item in particular, the heart, which is the most valuable item on Dine with an average value of 61 credits. If we can get 6 transfers and 1 heart, I'll be happy. As much as a heart would help our run, I also didn't want to stay inside too late because Dine is home of the butlers. Butlers are extremely dangerous for solo players, but luckily, since I was close to main, I would be able to leave if things got heated inside. I feel like it wouldn't hurt to do like 1 or 2 early transfers. Perfect. That's a perfect 4. Once I finally finished bringing all the items from the bathroom to main entrance, I then decided to look around just a little bit more before starting my transfer. 16, I'll take it. Okay, now I'm going to be a little more greedy since we have a bunch of items. I'm looking for kind of more expensive items. I think we can afford it now. Oh, there's a heart in here. Yes. There was still a lot more to explore, but since I already had a big pile of loot as well as a heart, I grabbed a couple more items and began my transfer. Alright, I'm gone. I'm just gonna start transferring. It's probably barely like 12. It's already 1. Yeah, we're just moving now. Even though 1 o'clock sounds early for a transfer, starting the transfer early on Dine is crucial to a good run considering how many items there are to take back and because you want to get some inventories back before anything starts spawning. The main threat on Dine are forest keepers as they have a 75% chance of spawning, which basically means you'll always see one if you stay late enough. Bonjour, bon chance pour l'Ironman. Thank you. I assume that means good luck on the Ironman. I don't speak French, but oui. With a few back and forth transfers, I successfully got back 5 inventories without seeing any enemies. As I went back in for my 6th and final transfer, I spotted a forest giant and a dog right in front of main, so I decided to play it safe and leave. We pulled a $294 day, which totaled us at 726 scrap on ship. Since the tier 4 moons are 1650 credits, I would need at least 1,444 scrap by the end of this quota, so if I wanted to complete this challenge, I was going to need a huge $718 run at Titan. I went into Titan knowing it had to be the biggest day of the run and the goal was to make $700 no matter what. Titan is notorious for being the most dangerous moon in Lethal Company with some of the deadliest indoor and outdoor enemies. Holy, that scared me. You gotta be kidding me. Of course, the ladder to main entrance was blocked by an old bird, so I made this really nice jump off the catwalk to find another way up. Oh my goodness. This was a pretty bad start to what had to be my best run yet, but I kept it moving, took the alternative route up, and got straight to work. One reason Titan is so dangerous is because of turrets. Usually, you'll either see very few turrets, or if you're unlucky, Titan will roll a turret seed, and there will be turrets at every corner you turn. Lucky for us, it didn't look like turrets were going to be a huge problem on this seed. I also had to watch out for enemies even early on in the day because Titan can have some unexpected morning spawns pretty often. With my guard up, I got deeper in Titan and found some pretty good high value items, then ran into my first enemy. Mimic. Okay, so I need to juke him. That's easy though, come on. Just come up here. There's no way he grabs me as I go down, right? Okay, nice. After getting around the mast, I made my way to fire exit, put my items outside, and on the way back in to grab the rest of my items, a backwater gunkfish decides to sit right in my pathway. Somehow, I was able to jump past it without stepping on it and get the remainder of my items. I grabbed the final 2 items I had found at fire and dropped them off the edge outside to start the transfer process. Holy, he almost grabbed me. Now that the mast was dead, I dropped the rest of my items off the edge, went into main, and found apparatus very close by. Okay, we have app. There's got to be items in here. You're telling me I'm on Titan and there's no other items in app room? I cleared out the dead ends at main and found a huge $115 painting and 2 more one-handeds worth over 100 combined. But I heard a nutcracker, so I knew things were starting to get crazy. I can also kill the nut. Oh, I went straight for main, dropped my items off, and although I knew I needed some more items, I decided to transfer all the items I currently had before it got too late. As dangerous as Titan is, it's still one of the most fun moons to go to because of the high value loot inside as well as the easy transfer. As a solo player, Titan can be a very profitable moon for the simple fact that you can drop your items down to the bottom and transfer pretty easily. However, eyeless dogs are the most common enemy, with forest keepers being the second most common, so if you wait too long to transfer, it can still be a headache even though it's so close. After transferring, I knew I had to get at least a couple more items, and even though it was already 7 PM, it was make or break, so I made my way back to the fire exit. The old bird's up. With the old bird awake and blocking the fire exit, I couldn't do anything except painfully wait for an opportunity to sneak by. Every minute you wait at this time of day just means things are getting more and more dangerous inside, but I was determined to survive, and after some time of being patient, I saw my opportunity. I ran around fire exit for some time before finally finding a red soda, and as I was desperately looking for at least one more high value item, my chat reminded me of something very important. Appy. Good calls. I think I just get that and leave. Good calls, good comms, good comms. With my final 2 items in hand, I just needed to make it back to ship and hope I had enough to pay for Artifice and Embrion. Alright. Let's go, baby. We're gaming today. We're gaming. That had to be... Bro, that might have been 7, bro. We pulled the biggest day we had had this entire run with a $769 day, which would put us at $14.95 scrap, barely allowing us to make it to Artifice and Embrion after the overtime bonus. Before we get into our final 2 moons, I quickly want to let you guys know that I stream Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. EST every single week. So if you guys are looking for something fun to watch during the week, come to the streams. I'll have my Twitch as the first link in the description. Go give me a follow. Thanks, guys. We had just completed pretty much the hardest part of this challenge, but there was still one more challenge, and that was to complete the final quota. Artifice holds the highest value loot out of every moon in the game, but without the company cruiser, it's a pretty long and painful transfer. As luck would have it, I also rolled a stormy day, which would make transferring even harder. Artifice is rated S++ because of how unpredictable it can be. First off, Artifice has the highest chance of rolling the mineshaft interior, but there's still a pretty good chance of rolling the mansion or factory interior. It's also very hard to predict what enemies will spawn, as almost every indoor enemy has between a 3 to 8% chance of spawning, which means you have to be ready to deal with any combination indoors. Artifice is basically the main high quota moon, as it spawns the most valuable loot out of every moon in the game. The 10 most common items on this moon average out to about 61 credits, and most of them are one-handeds, making the transfer process a lot easier. I had found 2 very strong inventories pretty quickly, so I stopped looting and started transferring. The easy part on this moon is finding loot, but the hard part is transferring without the company cruiser. Most skilled players will only go to Artifice with the company cruiser because of how long and dangerous the transfer is on foot. The fact that it was stormy outside just made things worse, as it would make the transfer process take even longer. Outdoors, the main enemy you'll see are old birds, but there's still a good chance you'll see every other enemy besides Feapars, which is just another reason why Artifice can be so unpredictable. Okay, 114, that's 180. Okay. Old birds can be really annoying to deal with, but on this moon, old birds can actually be a good enemy to have, as they can target and kill giants, dogs, and baboon hawks. Unfortunately, the old birds in this instance were patrolling right in front of the ship, so there wasn't much I could do besides wait. After waiting until literally 5 p.m, I was finally able to make it out without being spotted. I made it back to fire exit, grabbed my second inventory, and slowly made my way back to the ship. I took the long route around the outside to be safe, and luckily I didn't run into any issues on the way back, and we successfully secured 2 strong inventories on Artifice. Woo! 2 inventories. 2 inventories. Oh my gosh, how much is that? 632 is what we need. 568, we need to go into Embrion. With a solid day at Artifice, there was still a little more work to do on Embrion, as we still didn't have enough loot. This is the final challenge with the Ironman, as you need to sell your scrap after Embrion at only 77% of the selling price. Since our quota was 486, that meant I would need to sell $632 worth of scrap, and my last chance to collect that was on Embrion. Now, I don't really know what the deal is with Embrion, as it's a paid moon, it's full of old birds, and it doesn't really have great loot. All I know is that there's not really a reason why anyone would willingly go to this moon. However, since this is the Ironman challenge, I was required to go to this moon. I had one mission, and that mission was to collect $64 worth of scrap and get out. I made my way over to main entrance, and right off the bat, I heard our first enemy. There's a barber already. Did I scan something? Okay, that's 30. Barbers are the third most common enemy, right behind hoarding bugs and Hygridare, but the barber sounded pretty far away, so I was safe to keep looting. Luckily, just around the corner, I found a pack of bottles worth 44, and that, combined with the yield sign, would be all the loot I needed from this moon. It was only 10 a.m., all the old birds were asleep, and the coast was clear outside, so I made a safe, easy transfer back to the ship. All right, so let me make sure... 642, yeah. Perfect. I went to the company building, sold all the items I had, and once we fulfilled quota, the Ironman challenge was complete. 492. Let's go, baby. Let me grab this boombox. We're taking off. Oh, dude. Let's go. Dude, this challenge actually makes lethal fun again. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. And as one last reminder, if you haven't followed me on Twitch, it'll be the first link in the description. Zumbo with 25 gifted. Holy bro, you have a family, bro. You have kids. Zumbo, you're not thinking about your kids, bro. No, they would have wanted this. They would have wanted this. Trespasser with the 5 gifted. Oh shit, we got a hype train.